January 2026 is here, and for millions of immigrants, this new year does not arrive with fireworks or celebration. It arrives with folders full of documents, inboxes refreshed daily, and hearts weighed down by years of waiting. For many families, the immigration journey has felt endless. Applications filed long ago, interviews postponed, work permits delayed, and futures put on hold. But here's the surprising question no one expected to ask at the start of this year. What if things are finally starting to move? Not perfectly, not easily, but quietly, steadily, and in ways that actually matter. As we step into January 2026, there are real signs, not rumors, not hype, but visible movement, that parts of the US immigration system are functioning better than they have in years. This does not mean the system has become friendly or forgiving. It has not. Immigration remains strict, rule-driven, and highly sensitive to compliance, especially under the current enforcement-focused administration. But something important has changed. The chaos has slowed, the silence has broken, and approvals are showing up where nothing existed before. Across green cards, work permits, visa processing abroad, and even enforcement priorities, we are seeing signals of stability. These are not headlines that dominate the news cycle, but they are the kind of changes that reshape real lives. Families reuniting, jobs saved, futures restarted. If you have been waiting for years, wondering whether your case is stuck forever, this moment matters. Let's start with one of the most critical areas, green cards. Throughout late 2025, immigration officials quietly focused on reducing internal backlogs. There were no major announcements, no dramatic policy speeches. But behind the scenes, cases started moving, especially for people applying for green cards from inside the United States. Family-based adjustment of status cases saw noticeable progress. Applicants began reporting faster interview scheduling and more consistent decisions once their files were complete. For years, many families felt trapped in limbo, waiting not for approval, but simply for movement. That waiting is finally easing for some. The most visible improvement has been for immediate relatives of US citizens, spouses, parents, and unmarried children under 21. These categories are always current, meaning visa numbers are available. Because of that, immigration officers have continued to prioritize them. For families who filed correctly, responded on time, and avoided mistakes, approvals are arriving more steadily than in previous years. Not overnight, not instantly, but predictably. And predictability is powerful. Predictability means fewer surprises. It means planning is possible again. It means families can begin to hope without feeling foolish. This doesn't mean every case is fast. Some still take months. Some still face requests for evidence. But the difference is this. The system is working more like a system again, instead of a black hole. Employment-based green cards also show signs of stability. Backlogs remain severe for certain countries, especially India and China. That reality has not changed. But what has changed is how current cases are being handled. When priority dates are current and documentation is complete, approvals are moving, visa numbers are being used instead of wasted. This reduces stagnation and keeps cases flowing forward instead of piling up. For workers who have spent years waiting, watching visa bulletins inch forward, this steady use of available numbers matters more than flashy promises. And then there's work authorization, the lifeline that allows people to survive while waiting. Late 2025 brought concern when authorities reduced the maximum validity period for certain work permits. Many feared chaos, more renewals, more delays, more job losses. But something unexpected happened. Processing efficiency improved. renewals began moving with greater consistency. Median processing times stabilized. In some categories, they even improved compared to earlier years, when delays felt random and endless. For people adjusting status, asylum applicants, and those waiting for final green card decisions, this matters deeply. Filing early, following instructions exactly, and staying eligible now leads to fewer interruptions. Yes, shorter validity means more attention and planning. But the ability to maintain continuous work authorization remains intact for those who follow the rules. And that continuity is the difference between stability and crisis. As we move further into 2026, one message is becoming clear. This system is still strict, but it is no longer frozen. And that changes everything. In the next part, we'll look beyond the US borders, at visa processing abroad, consulates, and why thousands of families are finally getting interview dates after years of silence. Part 2. Visas abroad, consulates reopening, and the return of interviews. For families waiting outside the United States, hope has often felt even farther away. Files approved years ago sat untouched. Interviews were cancelled, delayed, or never scheduled. Some families began to wonder if their turn would ever come. As January 2026 begins, that painful silence is starting to break. At the National Visa Center, document review times have become more consistent. Cases that were stalled for years are finally being reviewed and pushed forward. This does not mean instant approvals, but it does mean progress. Consulates in several regions have expanded interview capacity. This matters more than most people realize. A single additional interview slot can mean a family finally reunites. Multiply that across months, and backlogs that once stretched into years begin to shrink. Not every embassy is operating at full capacity. Some regions still face staffing and security challenges. But the overall direction is clear. Visa processing is normalizing instead of collapsing. Family-based immigrant visas are moving. Employment-based immigrant visas are moving. More interviews are being scheduled. More final decisions are being issued. And for people who have lived in suspended animation, unable to plan weddings, relocations, or careers, this change is life-altering. Temporary visas are also seeing improvement. Student visas, exchange visas, and employment-based non-immigrant visas are being processed with clearer timelines in many locations. For international students planning to start programs in 2026, predictability matters. For professionals preparing to begin jobs, predictability means security. Security screening remains strict. That has not changed. But the process itself has become more structured and transparent. And when people understand the process, fear decreases. Beyond agencies and embassies, Congress also plays a role. While sweeping immigration reform remains elusive, lawmakers from both parties continue discussions on targeted fixes, workforce shortages, legal immigration efficiency, and backlog reduction. Congress moves slowly. That is reality. But incremental funding decisions often matter more in the short term than headline-making bills. Increased funding for operations improves staffing, technology, and case handling. These behind-the-scenes improvements don't trend on social media, but they shorten wait times. As of January 2026, ongoing discussions around resource allocation suggest continued support for backlog reduction. That means the improvements we are seeing may not be temporary. But what about enforcement? That's where fear often spikes. Despite strict enforcement priorities, deportation efforts continue to focus primarily on individuals with serious criminal convictions or clear violations. For law-abiding immigrants with pending cases, approved petitions, or strong family ties, mass enforcement has not materialized. Immigration attorneys report that routine applicants are not being targeted simply for having pending applications. Caution is always necessary, but panic is not justified. And then there is clarity. One of the most damaging aspects of immigration stress is uncertainty. Constant rule changes, shifting policies, confusion. As 2026 begins, policies are clearer, published, consistently applied, strict but stable. Stability allows planning. Planning restores dignity. The visa bulletin also plays its role. While movement varies by category, several family-based and employment-based categories continue to advance. Even small movement matters when people have waited years. This steady allocation of visas tells us something important. The system is functioning. And when systems function, lives move forward. In the next part, we'll talk about the human impact. What these changes really mean for families, workers, and students who have waited in silence. Part 3, the human side of progress. No one talks about immigration news is often discussed in numbers, backlogs, quotas, processing times. But behind every case number is a person, a family, a story paused in the middle. For many immigrants, good news does not mean perfection. It means something much simpler and much deeper. It means opening an email and seeing an approval notice after years of silence. It means renewing a work permit without losing a job. It means finally attending a visa interview that was postponed again and again. These are not small wins. They are life-changing moments. A parent who can finally plan their child's education. A worker who can commit to a career. A couple who can stop living apart. This is what progress looks like in real life. At the same time, realism matters. Immigration in 2026 still demands patience. Mistakes still cause delays. Compliance still matters. Not every case will move quickly. But the presence of functioning systems, visible approvals, and consistent processing is itself powerful. January 2026 begins with more structure and less chaos than many feared. The message is not to relax completely, but also not to lose hope. Immigration remains difficult, but for many, it is finally moving forward. In the final part, we'll wrap everything together. What you should do next, how to protect your case, and why this year could matter more than you think. Part 4. What this means for you and why 2026 matters. If there is one lesson from the start of 2026, it is this. Movement rewards preparation. Cases that are complete, accurate, and timely are moving. Applicants who follow instructions, respond quickly, and stay compliant are seeing results. This is not the year to guess. It is not the year to delay. It is the year to be precise. Check your documents, file early, track deadlines, stay informed. Hope alone is not enough, but hope combined with action is powerful. The immigration system is still strict, but it is no longer frozen. And for many families, that difference is everything. If you've been waiting, your turn may finally be closer than it feels. Stay informed, stay prepared, and most importantly, don't lose hope. If this breakdown helped you, share your thoughts in the comments. What part of the immigration process are you currently stuck in? And make sure to subscribe so you don't miss what's coming next. Because the story of 2026 is still being written.